Welcome back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Christian Pedersen, Tommy Morris, Bodie De Silva. Bodie joining us on behalf of Scorebook Live, the official digital content provider of all things CIF sports, all things high school sports. They're a great app to have. They're a great website to check out. You can figure out everything there at sbliveca.com or scorebooklive.com, or if you just Google Scorebook Live or SB Live, you will be able to figure it out. The internet, the world is your oyster. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it all out. Also, let's say thank you again, as always, to the U.S. Army for everything they are doing before we get to our division preview. Thank you again to the U.S. Army. Guys, let's talk about the Division III match. The semifinals are always great across the board in all of them, but the semifinals specifically in D3 have us set up for some like major plot lines going into this week. Teams are out for blood. We got University City Bishops on one side. We got Del Norte and Point Loma on the other. UC and Bishops is a rematch of a game earlier this season where UC was up 21-0 with like 5 minutes into the game. Bishops comes all the way back, then gives up a home run touchdown with like 30 seconds left. And back and forth, UC barely ends up squeaking out a win. That's going to be a huge one to get like a revenge game type vibe. On the other side, Del Norte and Point Loma are two programs that have been like pretty far from the promised land for a really long time and are here to finally, like, one of them's going to get a shot at it. And so it feels like two of the hungriest teams in all the brackets. Let's start with that Bishops UC game. Bodie De Silva from Scorebook Live, your thoughts on this rematch between these two teams?
Yeah, that first game I know you were at and talked about how exciting it was. And I don't think it'll be too dissimilar. But the way University City's been playing in recent weeks, I'm going to stick with them. They were my pick to win this bracket. I think they're getting all their pieces kind of together and everyone's playing up to their high level right at the right time. So I think this is their year to get back to the finals, much like they did last year. I'm sure they're looking for another result, but I think they take care of business and get back there this week.
Tommy Morris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Bishops has been through the ringer this year. They pulled out a good overtime win last week against Imperial. But University City, as Bodie said, is really rolling. They have not lost to a San Diego section team since August. That's pretty good. You know, a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, they seem to have smoothed out the kinks after the first couple weeks.
Yeah, and a guy who's flown under the radar somehow, I don't know how, because he's put up such crazy numbers. LaDainian Lawrence, 1,146 yards, I think, in 9 games. He's averaging 8.7 yards a carry. Everyone knows how Sam Cooper can run the ball as a quarterback. I mean, they can kill you, and Toad Harris as well. They can kill you all over the ground. They've really established that run game in recent weeks, and I think that much like a lot of teams we talked about in the other brackets, like the University City has really kind of caught their stride here and really, really are just rolling on all cylinders. And this is a team that I think will win this game by a couple touchdowns, even though last game was I think they won by 2 yards, I think, the last time these guys played. So, but I like University City here.
Yeah, a game that came down to the Bishops kicker almost completing a Hail Mary to win the game. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And if that happened, that would have been the craziest finish in the history of San Diego football, I think. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Other side, we've got Del Norte and Point Loma. Del Norte, the last, and I know high school, it's hard to roll over, a team that from 1 year to another, let alone from a 2 or 3 year sample size. But the last like 2 or 3 years, they've had a strong something out the gate that then turned, into run of the mill later in the season. This year, they have some young receivers break out early, and we kind of were like, okay, is this like the real deal, or are they hot until people get film on them? They seem to be the real deal. This seems to be Del Norte with all of the weapons they finally have been like hoping and thinking that they're going to have. Point Loma, I believe it was 2 years ago when the pandemic season happened, they played 1 week, pulled the ripcord on it. There was a lot of friction generated there. There was players in the upper ranks of the juniors and senior classes that I think kind of divested from the program, and it was a rocky start for Coach Joel Allen. They are also very hungry for this. One of these teams is going to make it on to the finals, and I think that you could make an argument that there is no favorite between these two semifinals, unlike what I was saying in some of these other brackets. So Del Norte, Point Loma, let's start with you, Buddy De Silva.
Yeah, I doubted Del Norte last week against San Pasqual, and they took care of business, a 27-7 win, and that was a San Pasqual team that had been running it all over everyone. So that shows me a lot about Del Norte's defense. With that said, Point Loma scored over 40 points in 8 of their last 9 games. The only time they didn't was a loss to University City, who obviously is the top seed in this bracket. I like Point Loma to do it again. They've really run the ball whenever they've needed to. I was able to see that in person a few weeks back. I think this sets up a rematch of University City and Point Loma, which was a great game a few weeks back. I like Point Loma to take care of their business here.
Tommy Morris, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Del Norte proved a lot last week. I think San Pasqual's offense pretty good on the ground, and they shut him out completely. Jack Schneider threw for 268 yards, and it seemed like San Pasqual was trying to do anything to not let Ty Olson touch the ball, the great wide receiver for Del Norte, but they still figured out a way to give him some carries and get him 80 yards. So it is a very, although you could say that, Ty Olson is the majority of this offense, it really isn't. They do a good job of spreading the ball around when they need to. I think last week was huge in their preparation for a game like this. Point Loma, though, last week against Morris, 2 non-offensive touchdowns, plus running the ball for 271 yards at a 10.8 yard per carry clip normally leads to a win. And I think Del Norte got a good practice against a run-heavy team last week with San Pasqual, but Point Loma is a whole different animal. Literally, it is. It's a pointer instead of an eagle. I like Point Loma in this one by a couple touchdowns also.
We'll put that on the poll at SD Prep Insider. Is a pointer a whole different animal than an eagle?
It is.
No, at SD Prep Insider on Twitter, on Instagram. I would be curious with Point Loma. What does the math require for them to get back up to Division II? Because they sort of feel like at least a D2 team to me, just in terms of physical roster construction size. So I will be curious how quickly they can get back math-wise up to Division II. But yeah,
well, I'll tell you this.
I'm taking a look here. Okay, so they're the second highest team of a rating in Division III. So I think getting to the final would probably be enough for them.
Yeah, I not to diminish. I'm not having any diminishment of this. This is how the system is supposed to work. The good teams go up, the bad teams go down. The teams where they're at are supposed to stay where they're at. I would just want to make sure that if Point Loma moves on to the finals here, they get their due to go back up into D2.
And they may not, being the second highest, they may not even need to be up there because the only team ahead of them is Patrick Henry, who I can't see moving up. So
we'll talk about this in the offseason, but I think there's going to be a lot of movement within the city conference as well that will be very interesting to talk about.
Deal. I like that. It's a great offseason tease. It's the best offseason tease we've ever had. We'll end it with say go for more. Visit scorebooklive.com or download the SB Live Sports app.